Alexandra from Fiberbound, and this week I posted a photo and talked about how much I like knitting socks on 9-inch circular needles by Chiaogoo. One of my lovely followers asked me about casting on and was concerned that she was getting stitches that were twisted when she tried this method on the 9-inch circulars. So I thought I'd spend a little bit of time today to show you how I cast on using my 9-inch circulars and how I join in the round. These are my 9-inch circulars. As you can see, they're very short, but they are actually really nice for working in the round on small circumference, such as socks or mittens. So first off, I've got some yarn here that I'll be casting on with. And I like to use a German twisted cast on for my cast on. And I measure for a 56 to 64 stitch sock about 1.5 arm lengths of yarn to put my slip knot. This is an approximate amount. You can search other videos on YouTube to find out how best to calculate the amount of yarn you should leave for your long tail cast on or a German twisted cast on, which requires about the same amount of tail. So this isn't going to be a technique video about the German twisted cast on, but let me show you through how I do that in case you're interested. So that's 2 stitches on my needles. I'm going to get to 56. I use the German twisted cast on that Andrea Mowry shows in one of her video tutorials, and she explains it really in great depth. So I will link that below so that you can check that out if you'd like to cast on your socks this way. So I've cast on 56 stitches, but what I like to do is cast on one more stitch because I do really like to join with an invisible join. So I'll quickly show you how I do that. Please note that all of my little bumps from the cast on are on the inside of the needle at the moment. And one of the key tips to not twisting your stitches is making sure that they are lined up something similar to this. But what you really don't want is anything like this, where it's irregular. So for example, if we were to join like this, there would be a twist here and possibly another twist here, which would mean that your tube will end up not being a tube at all, but would end up being, I think it's called a Mobius. That is a design feature for some patterns, but you don't want that for your socks. So I like to make sure all of my little bumps are on the inside as the needle naturally curves. And I will just add my 57th stitch and talk you through the actual joining in the round. So there's my 57th stitch. And what I like to do then, I hope you can see everything here, is bring my 2 tips together and stretch these stitches out to the tips of the needle. Making sure that you've got a bit of wiggle room here up the top so it's not too tight. So as you can see, or hopefully you can see, all of those little bumps from the cast on are on the inside of the needle. You've got the loops of all of the live stitches on the outside and all of the bumps along the inside. Now I like to hold on to my working yarn. I knit continental, so I do hold my yarn in my left hand. So what I like to do now To get rid of that extra stitch that we cast on and to make sure we have a lovely invisible join, I will slip this first stitch that I cast on off of the left hand side needle to the right hand side. And then the last stitch I cast on is this one here. Can you see that? What I'm going to do is pull that one over the one I've just transferred to basically join my knitting in the round. Your knitting is now joined. I'll take you through one row just to show you how that works. I always like to put my stitch marker just at that point where we passed that stitch over the other stitch to join. And now we start knitting. It is a bit tight in the first round, so don't be surprised if you're feeling like it's not really flowing very well for you. By the time you get to your second round, the stitches are much looser on the needles and will flow much nicer for you. As you get to the end of the round, you'll feel that the stitches aren't quite as tight anymore. We have the live stitches on the needle on the outside and all of the knitting that we've completed, plus the cast on edge on the inside of the loop. That will make sure that you don't twist your stitches, and you'll end up with a lovely tube. Good luck with knitting on 9-inch circulars. I have found it to be a lovely quick way to knit a vanilla sock. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below and I'll try to help you as best I can. Happy knitting!